We are not starving anyone. We are fighting Hamas.
Now we're going to see the catastrophic failure of the United Nations to distribute that aid.
There are many proofs that shows how Hamas is looting the food and taking it and putting it in storage in their own underground facilities.
So guys, we have been hearing a lot about reports that the IDF and Israel is starving the Gazan population in the Gaza Strip. So today we decided to go boots on the ground into Gaza, into crossway from which the humanitarian trucks are entering Gaza from Israel to see what really is happening on the ground. It's going to be a long drive. It's around 2 hours from Jerusalem, and it's going to be very hot, so I'm taking some water. Helmet, bulletproof vest, Bible I always have with me, and of course, boots. But first, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I even stopped my car on the side of the road to help you. Hit that subscribe button, okay? What really is annoying about this situation is that basically, no matter how much help and humanitarian aid Israel is providing the Gaza population, the international media is spreading lies and deceit that reaches more and more people around the world with false information than with the truth. Sadly, this is what's going on. Because the enemies of Israel, Iran, Qatar, and other countries are investing a lot of finances in order to spread false propaganda against what's happening in the Gaza Strip. So guys, a little bit of off-road driving here, and we made it into the Gaza-Israel border, and I see the border fence. Okay, we've made it. It sure is crazy hot here. Ready to go? So guys, we just arrived at the location, and behind me here is one of the humanitarian aid trucks that are delivering the food after it crosses into the Gaza side of the border. So you have to see, look at all the metal and the barbed wire and the glasses of this truck, because the moment it enters Gaza, it is immediately looted by the Palestinians that want the food, or by Hamas themselves. So it needs to be protected. This looks like a scene from Mad Max or something like that. Just crazy, really crazy situation here. We are now entering into the Gaza Strip to see what humanitarian aid is actually reaching. But what we have been seeing in the last few weeks is that the international media keeps proclaiming this statement that Israel is starving the Gaza population. Is that true? Is there any merit to that? Where do we receive these reports from?
No, the allegations of deliberate starvation are complete bullshit. When we go into the Gaza Strip now, we're going to see not only the humanitarian aid that Israel is sending in, but also the catastrophic failure of the United Nations to distribute that aid. We're going to see the contents of hundreds of trucks rotting in the sun because the UN has not been able to shift it and get it to the people who need it and make sure Hamas can't steal it. And unfortunately, instead of taking responsibility and scaling up their operations and taking certain risks in a war zone, they find it much easier to blame Israel because they've been doing what they've been doing since the very beginning of the war, trying to pressure Israel to end the war with the Hamas regime still in power in Gaza, free to plot another October 7th massacre, and free to catch its breath for the next war.
Well, which is what they're doing. Why is the humanitarian aid so important for Hamas?
Humanitarian aid is important because it is Hamas's main financial lifeline. Its international sources of funding have, in large part, been cut off, and it's been able to make money by taxing the goods that go into Gaza, whatever goes to the market.
Selling it at very inflated prices to the population.
Or when the merchants sell them at inflated prices, you go around with a gun to the merchant and say, give me thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And so Hamas operates as a protection. So the goods going into Gaza have enabled Hamas to sustain its governance structure inside the Gaza Strip and its control over the population. That's why what Israel tries to do with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is to separate Hamas from the civilian population and make sure aid can get to the people who need it and bypass the Hamas system and Hamas's ability to infiltrate the broken UN system. But you know, the Gaza Strip now is the most complicated humanitarian challenge in military history because there's nowhere else in the world where the UN is expected to deliver aid inside an active combat zone controlled by the enemy. Normally, civilians are moved out of harm's way and you give them aid somewhere safe. But here, Egypt shut the border for more than the last year. It won't let any aid at all through the Rafah crossing. Civilians aren't allowed to leave. And so you have the challenge of how to get aid to people who need it when Hamas is hiding in tunnels under their feet and trying to get its hands on whatever it can.
Yeah, no, it's a very terrible situation, but are any other countries delivering aid to their enemies during a war?
It's not something that happens. International law says that countries have an obligation to facilitate aid to the enemy population as long as there's no evidence that it's going to support the enemy's army. And here it is going to support the enemy's military. And Israel is still allowing that aid to reach the people who need it, of course.
Well, thank you so much. Let's see what's going to happen inside.
Let's have a look inside.
So we are now inside the Gaza Strip. I'm here at the humanitarian aid corridor in Gaza, just a few minutes from the Israeli border, right next to the Kerem Shalom border crossing. This is one of the main gateways where food, water, and medicine enter into the Gaza Strip. Aid comes through in two ways: by trucks, hundreds of them every week, and now, for the first time in this war, by air. Over the weekend, Israeli planes dropped pallets of humanitarian aid straight into Gaza. I'm talking about flour, sugar, canned food, the basics. The big question that the world keeps asking is this: are people in Gaza starving? And if so, who is responsible? So first, let's be clear. The humanitarian situation in Gaza is very serious. People are struggling. That's what happens in this war, and in a war in general. And make no mistakes, there is a war going on just kilometers from where I'm standing now. And the IDF is fighting Hamas terrorists in 7 areas across the Gaza Strip. In Khan Yunis, in the south, in Gaza City, in the north. Combat brigades are going after terror tunnels, weapon sites, and Hamas fighters. A war zone in the Gaza Strip being under fire by Hamas terrorists. You don't have time to sit and drink your coffee and wake up in the morning and get ready for the day and prepare. So sometimes I woke up at 2 in the morning after an hour and a half of sleep, and you need to wake up immediately and do your job and do it to perfection or people die.
You literally have your life on the line. You don't know what corner you turn and somebody's got a gun pointed at you.
So in order to wake up, I just took a Vinia pill, and I really felt the energy levels go up faster. The clarity of mind that doesn't usually happen immediately when you wake up in the morning.
Right.
And I don't remember taking much stuff with me into the Gaza Strip. I had my sleeping bag, a flashlight, and the Vinia bottle. So that's what I had with me.
You're a young person. You're very healthy, but you still think that Vinia was helpful to get you to even a higher level of performance?
It's helping me to exceed my normal abilities. So let's say, I'm at 100%, and that puts me at 120. With raising 3 kids, you need to be sharp and make the right decisions.
Raising 3 kids may be equal to combat.
A lot harder. A lot harder. Listen, I'm still taking Vinia every day because I want to be there with my kids when they grow old. I want to be able to dance at their wedding and carry my kids and my grandkids for years to come. And this is the time to start, when you're young. With all that is happening, how is aid still getting in? This past week alone, more than 258 trucks were allowed into the Gaza through the crossings just like this one. Another 600 trucks worth of, food, water, and medicine were distributed by the United Nations and other aid groups inside Gaza. Israel also just began airdropping humanitarian aid. 7 pallets went in over the weekend, flown in by the Israeli Air Force. On top of that, Israel has opened humanitarian corridors designated safe routes inside Gaza where the United Nations aid convoys can pass without being caught in the crossfire of this fighting. These are carefully coordinated zones and times also that have windows where the IDF pauses its combat operations and its activity to allow the movement of trucks, supplies, and even civilians in these areas. Israel also declares temporarily that humanitarian pauses will take effect hours each day, often between the morning and the late afternoon, where military action is halted in specific zones with high civilian populations. This is meant to give the people a chance to access the food, the water, the medical care, and the aid workers to operate more freely and safely to bring the food to those who need it. Israel also reconnected an imported electrical power line in the southern desalination plant inside Gaza. That plant is now producing 10 times more clean water than before. And all of this is happening while the war continues. Israeli soldiers are under fire, and still the state is working to get aid into Gaza. But here's where things get complicated. Israel says it's not responsible for distribution of the aid inside the Gaza Strip. Once the trucks pass through Kerem Shalom or other border crossings, it's up to the United Nations and the international organizations to collect it and give it to the people. And that's where things start to break down. Not just because of logistics, but because of the Hamas terrorists. Israel says there is no famine in Gaza. And if people are starving, it's not because Israel isn't letting food in. It's because Hamas is taking their food and are stealing it to the civilian population at a highly inflated price. Hamas is known for stealing the aid and hiding it inside tunnels or selling it for profit. They've done this before, and they recently did it as well, and the IDF released footage of Hamas fighters feasting underground in tunnels while children above the ground in Gaza struggle to find food. The reality is that Hamas doesn't care if their own people go hungry. In fact, the worse things get for the Palestinian people, the more the world sees the pain and the suffering, the better it is for Hamas's strategy. And once again, they're using their own civilians as a weapon, as a shield, as PR against Israel. So Israel says it's doing everything it can to avoid hurting the innocent people of the Gaza Strip, even while fighting a brutal enemy, Hamas. And on the other hand, the Palestinian terrorist organization is doing the opposite. They hide in hospitals, they launch rockets from schools, they steal weapons under homes and store them inside children's cribs. And now they're using starvation as a story, a headline, to turn the world against Israel. So let's go take a look at what really is happening. I'm standing here in the middle of a humanitarian aid distribution center inside the Gaza Strip. So the aid trucks reach Kerem Shalom from the Israeli side of the border, and then they dump all the humanitarian aid, all the goods, the flour here. The IDF is making sure that there is no weapons, no bombs, no ammunitions, nothing here. And then the United Nations trucks are supposed to take these goods and deliver it to the Palestinian people inside the Gaza Strip. But they haven't been doing that. And all this aid has been sitting here. Tons and tons and tons of humanitarian aid has been sitting here to rot in the sun. And I can tell you, it is boiling hot in here. So, is Israel starving the Palestinian people? Or is it the United Nations? Or is it Hamas? Let me know what you think in the comments, guys.
We are here at the Gazan side of the Kerem Shalom crossing. Now, it's important for me to emphasize here, as the representative of the IDF, we are not starving anyone. This is not an aim. This is not a war goal for us. we are fighting Hamas. Vicious Hamas is fighting his own people. You already know that. He's using his population as human shield. Cynically, he's using them in order to create this campaign of starvation against Israel, against the IDF. This is a war zone for over 21 months now. It's a war that was imposed on us. We didn't select this war. We didn't want to open this war. They opened it. Now they are using starvation as a tool of war against us. It's a strategic weapon in their hands. It's very sad. Now, if it's because of any reason, security reason, we offered the UN already several times to support it. But they refused to that. Now we are improving this effort. Regardless of Hamas' efforts to stop it, we will push it as hard as we can, including airdrops of food by us and by other foreign countries, including opening humanitarian corridors, secured humanitarian corridors, temporarily, in certain times, in certain areas, in order to hand food directly to the people of Gaza, without Hamas looting it. Now we have to understand and we have to remember, I also saw this fake news in the last few days all over the media. There are many proofs, you already seen that, video clips, recordings from phone conversations between Hamas people and themselves, enough proofs that shows how Hamas is looting the food and taking it and putting it in storage in their own underground facilities and in their warehouses and stopping the food from the population of Gaza. There is food in Gaza right now as we speak, but it is in the wrong hands. We will continue to push as hard as we can to feed the people of Gaza on one hand. On the other hand, we will keep fighting Hamas as hard as we can in order to dismantle Hamas. Hamas cannot control the Gaza Strip the day after. We cannot allow October 7th happen again, this massacre again. We won't allow it. This is our mission. And most important than all, we still have 50 hostages captive brutally in the hands of Gaza in the underground facilities. They are being tortured as we speak now. And we will do our best in order to free them and bring them home, dead and alive alike. Thank you very much.
So, back in Israel, we just finished a full day of recording inside the Gaza Strip, not far from the border, in the humanitarian area where the food is being brought from Israel into the Gazan side, and then in there, the United Nations trucks should get it into the hands of the Palestinian people, hopefully without Hamas stealing it. And guys, now you can be the judge, and you can answer the question, is Israel really starving the Gazan population or not? Let me know in the comments what you think. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe.
Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support TBN Israel today online at tbn.org/Israel. Thank you.